Hey y'all, making a video about a God Nugget that happened this week. And I just call them God Nuggets because they're just kind of things that make your life better. When you find a nugget of gold, you get excited. When you have a nugget of chocolate, you get excited. So nuggets are just good little bits that happen. I am going through the book 100 Days to Brave with Annie Downs and Annie F. Downs. And I started in January. I did miss a few days. There's been a little inconsistency, but I'm working on that. I'm constantly trying to grow and get better as a person, and consistency is one of those challenges for me that I struggle with. So we're working on it. We're going to eventually make it through the 100 days. But the devotional that I read this week is day 55, and it is called Say No. And the verse that is centered around is Daniel 3, verse 18. This is the New International Version that she quotes, and it says, "But even if he does not rescue us, we want you to know, Your Majesty, that we will not serve your gods or worship the image of gold you have set up." She talks about Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego and the story of them being thrown into the fiery furnace, which is Daniel chapter 3. So if you haven't read that, you might want to read that and see what that's about. King Nebuchadnezzar set up a statue that was 90 feet tall. People were ordered to bow down and worship the statue, and if you did not, the penalty that he made clear was that you'd be thrown into a blazing furnace. So he didn't mince words. He did not tell you what the penalty would be. And these three gentlemen, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, decided that they were only going to worship the one true God, and they were not going to bow down to this idol that had been made. And she writes, "Can you imagine that courage to stand up when everyone else bows, knowing the result, knowing who you are and how much you are respected, yet choosing to go against your boss, namely the king, in a life-threatening way?" It says, look at today's verse. Even if he does not, even if God doesn't rescue us from this, we still say no. She said, "I hope I always have the courage to say, I know what God can do, but even if he doesn't, I still won't worship idols. I will still worship the one true God." She talks about things that we can pray for. Things like, I know God can heal my friend's illness, but if he doesn't. I know God can fix relationships, but even if he doesn't. I know God can provide a spouse, but even if he doesn't. And I know God can provide for him financially, but even if he doesn't. So even in those moments, like, do we keep following him? She says they were brave, speaking of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. They said no. And even when the voices of fear must have been whispering to them, they didn't listen. They stood there in their no and believed that God is still God. A lot of courageous no's make for some beautifully brave yeses. And I'm not sure you're going to get it right every time. Saying the right yeses and the right no's. I don't get it right all the time. But courage doesn't equal right. Courage equals stepping out and trying. Be brave and say yes, but also be brave and say no. Jump on the float, walk into the furnace, stand up, sit down, get on that flight, say the thing that courage asks you to say, even if it's the word no. All right, so why is this a God nugget for me? Well, there's a lot of good nuggets you can pull from all of this that's been said. But for me, the nugget is that four-word sentence, get on that flight. I joined Cincy in August of 2021 on a whim. I did not take the traditional joining path. I joined because I wanted something to do, and have loved every minute of that particular part of my life. And COVID had put a stop to a lot of travel and meetings and all the fun stuff that you normally get to do when you join a company like Cincy that's direct marketing. So when this year came around and they started talking about SFR, which is Cincy Family Reunion, I knew I was going. Like deep down in my spirit, in the core, I knew I was going. Okay. I put in for my days off before I even signed up for a convention. I knew I was going. So when she writes here, get on that flight, I feel like it was spoken to me. Be brave. Because I'm getting on a plane by myself, going halfway across the country. Well, from Mississippi to Utah. So that's, yeah, most of the country by myself. Yeah. And for me, that's really brave. I have had a lot of personal growth since I joined Cincy, and I have some friends that have noticed the growth, and some of it's been 180, completely different in my personality, in behaviors, in the way I handle things, and it's fantastic, and it's me, and I didn't know I could be me like this. So when she wrote, this book was copyrighted in 2017. She could have picked anything to write in that paragraph. Be brave and say yes, but also be brave and say no. Jump on the float, walk into the furnace, stand up, sit down, get on that flight. Say the thing that courage asks you to say, even if it's the word no. She could have picked anything. Swim across the ocean. I mean, she could have picked anything. And she chose, get on that flight. God knew I was going to read it one day. He knew. And he knew I was going to read it at a time when I needed to hear that message. Be brave. Get on that flight. And like I said, deep in my spirit, like here somewhere, I just knew I was going. And this just confirms that I'm making the right decision, that I'm being brave in the right way. And just, if you feel it, no matter what anybody says, whether it makes sense or not, go for it. Be brave. Stand up for God if you have to in a situation where it's not popular. Be brave. Whatever that looks like for you, be brave. And say no. And sometimes saying no is the brave thing. You might be a yes girl. You say yes to everything. Folks call you because they know you're going to say yes. Can you come watch my kids? Yes. Can you come help me paint my fence? Yes. Can you come help me? Yes, 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 yes. You don't ever say no. And maybe for you, the brave thing is to say no. Maybe you need to find that boundary and you need to say no. But I'm saying yes, and I'm saying yes to a flight, and I'm saying yes to a trip halfway across the country to Utah to spend 4 days with 5 women that I only know through social media. That for me is brave. Because I'm the girl that goes to the party and sits in the corner and doesn't say a word to anybody unless she's approached. Well, that was the old me, pre-August 2021. Now I get in elevators and I talk to strangers. And I never forget when my husband and I went out of town on a trip. I think it was January we went. Maybe it was February. I don't know. It was earlier this year. Doesn't matter. We got an elevator and I struck up a conversation with the person in the elevator. First of all, I don't like elevators. I don't. I think they're moving coffins. They make me nervous. I don't think God wants us put in a box until we don't care if we're in the box. Not a fan of elevators. But sure as shooting, we rode it twice and strangers got on the elevator and I struck up conversations. And at one point I remember looking at my husband and his jaw was just like, who is this person? He and I have been married a really long time. And I constantly throw curveballs at him. And I think I read on his face, oh dear, I'm meeting another side over again. So he's here for the journey. It's going to be an interesting trip. And I just mean, I'm talking about that figuratively in regards to life. He will not be going with me to Salt Lake. It's going to be me solo with 5 women that I know off of social media who also sell Scentsy. And that's what we have in common. And I can't wait to see what else we have in common. But right now, we all sell Scentsy. And that's what we have in common. And I'm going to be real brave. And I'm going to go out. And I'm going to make some new friends. And I'm not going to really have a choice because I'm going to be halfway across the country by myself with 5 other women who sell Scentsy. Find your brave. Have an adventure. Embrace it. And just enjoy life. You only get one. Make the best of it. Make the most of it. Regardless of what hand you're dealt. And be brave. We'll talk soon.